anywhere right around here, it probably doesn't really matter. And if it lands far away, then, well, we'll get to see it. So we had our young adult in our 20s foolish decision to make, and I don't regret it, actually. That was probably the right thing to do at the time. So yeah, huge mixture of emotions, and that's very intense but quick mixture of emotions. So that's just one of many that all of us get a chance to experience in life.
How long was it before they gave the all clear or said it's all right, we can all get out of the bunker?
I don't remember. I don't think it was that long. I mean, it was on the order of. It was longer than a few minutes, but it wasn't longer than half an hour to an hour at the most. I mean, I think I asked this guy if he wanted to stand on top of the ditch with me, because I think I was getting bored. At least that's probably what I told him. Yeah, it's an interesting mixture, terror and boredom all at the same time. It's kind of hard to do, huh?
How was the show?
Good, actually, yeah. And we weren't really able to identify which things were which. Some people speculated that a couple of the streaks coming from a different direction must have been Patriot missiles, and that was really exciting to see, and I guess sort of like watching your favorite sporting event. We obviously knew it wasn't a sporting event, but it was illuminating, to be a little punny about it, I guess. And it was at night. If I didn't mention it, it was at night. So.
What was the most challenging thing about being there, about serving Desert Storm?
In regards to this conflict, to Desert Storm, that'd be a good way to put a boundary around it.
Well,
the most challenging thing, by far, to me, was being so far from home for so long, without a clear end in sight. And I say that because it really wasn't that long, especially looking at how long men and women serve in current conflicts in the armed forces. I mean, they serve for a year or more away from home, a lot of them. Back then, to be gone from your base, your home, your family, if you had grown with a family by then, to be gone more than 3 weeks at a time was unheard of. It was very out of the ordinary, and it was not very favored. So being on the road for weeks, turning into months on end, was, without knowing exactly when you're going to be able to go home, was pretty stressful. Challenging is a good term. And I can remember feeling really super elated when I knew that I was going to be on a plane heading home, like in the next day or two. I was like, wow, you mean I'm not on a plane heading back down to the sandbox again. I'm on a plane heading back to the U.S. That was really, really good. Good feeling.
Where were you when you heard that you were heading home?
I was in Germany. Yep, it was a rainy night in Germany, and that was okay with me. That was really good news. Yeah.
Have you had any other emergencies occur on board any of the planes besides the fighter jets coming towards you?
Yeah, I'd back up to before the Desert Storm thing, when I think I talked before about going down to Panama. We actually lost an engine on our way into Panama, so it wasn't due to enemy fire, but we had to stop in Texas before maybe it was Oklahoma, before we continued on down. We had a bunch of war-fighting young men in the back of our plane. In that case, we were actually bringing in a light infantry division from the West Coast to go down and definitely take part in battle. And I know I'm going to completely digress from your question, but it brings up a very good point that I was thinking about. At the time, nobody had seen any sort of actual conflict like battle sort of fighting in the U.S. for quite a while. Vietnam was really the last time. So I think it was 1989, pretty sure it was 89, maybe 1990, just ahead of Desert Storm was when this Panama thing kicked off. And the infantry division that we were taking in were platoon loads of young foot soldiers, guys with rifles. And they were all very excited. It was like going to the movie, you know, like in the middle of a video game nowadays, maybe, that younger folks can relate to. And that went on even through the part where we lost one of our engines and had to declare an emergency and go in and land unexpectedly and get it worked on and sit on the ground for a few hours and then take off again. All of the troops in the back were very excited to be going down there to war because they knew war was exciting. However, by the time we got down there, we had been shot at already off the coast of Panama, and so we had to take some evasive action and call for help. We actually got close air support to come in. We had other types of airplanes that came in and actually eliminated our ground fire problem. And then when we went back in again and actually landed with these troops on board, I think the hard reality of it really caught them off guard. And I was 24 at the time, I think. These guys were even younger than that. These guys were 18, 19, you know. And it was all very exciting and fun until we opened that back big cargo ramp and their sergeants started yelling at them, you know, to move out, and they could hear gunfire and they could see flashes, you know, all around the place. And the hard reality of it was tough for most of them to swallow. I saw instant expression change, instant emotion change, and it was instantly emotionally changing for me too. So very interesting view of life and how rapidly life can change. And the shock of that was greater than any kind of emotional shock that I can recall from Desert Storm. Because Desert Storm was much more sanitary as a war. I think in Desert Storm there were dozens, maybe up into 100 or 200 casualties total for all coalition forces. You know, maybe 200 casualties. And I don't know how many of those were U.S., but I mean, very, very few. And so I think the go in and get them, just like in the movie stigma, was a little easier to just continue with throughout that entire war, which you know, it really kind of lasted 100 hours, you know, like 3 or 4 days, right? On the other hand, down there in Panama, it was also very quick, but it was also very close range. It wasn't very sanitary. And so that was a big shocker to these guys, to have war right in their faces in an instant. And of course, in our current conflict, it's quite the opposite. It's very, very long and drawn out. While we've made a lot of progress with the safety of our soldiers, they're still, you know, constantly under the threat of injury or worse. And but they've had a very long time, unfortunately, over there to be faced with that. So, yeah, that initial shock when I was just barely not a kid anymore to watch kids that were just barely still kids, learning that reality isn't the movies within like 1 minute's time was a real eye-opener.
Just in terms of like all your operations, like how much danger were you in at any point in time? Like, do you have like flying in Desert Storm? How much danger were you in at a daily basis, or?
Typically, I don't think much, you know, and that's again probably more of the young and invincible kind of mode that we were all in. We were in maybe a mild to moderate level of danger, I would think, and really for our sort of operation, because we were operating into airfields that coalition forces, the good guys had very good control over, it wasn't too much of a problem.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Kraft. It's been a pleasure interviewing you.
It was my pleasure too. I really appreciate you guys coming out and learning more about what has gone on with me here. And I wish you the best of luck with your project.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for thanking me for my service.
Take two.
And it's still rolling.